Today we're talking in my human systems note, which is a looking at the interface between human systems and tech. And right now the biggest tech is AI, an artificial system, which is what I will focus on today because we are talking about, and again, this isn't anti-AI. This is me from my years of being a clinician, a health clinician, going from fitness and wellness to human performance into healthcare, traditional healthcare, into rehab and recovery. Dealt with a lot of humans. I went from orthopedics and sports and very male centric approaches and mentality in the environments and in the way we approach the body, all the way into women's health, which was the other end of the spectrum. And not only that, maternity care, into peds and infant development. But it gave me a big, broad view. Plus, I became an entrepreneur. Plus, I was open to using the tech and all of that as a small business. Took advantage of Facebook. I think I made my first post in 2009. These were radical things at the time for my peers, and so AI right now is the interface. And if you are someone who has been skilled in the psychosomatics of the human system, meaning, as I said yesterday, that these notes are intended to make you think and understand human beings, the human side of the AI conversation, of the tech conversation, of the mass adoption conversation, because the people in tech, they don't have this intelligence. They just don't. A lot of people who are in STEM studies for the past, I'd say, 20 to 30 years were really pushed away from the humanities and the arts. And we wonder why that makes a difference. It makes a difference because it develops your right brain. It develops the right side of your brain. And when you're only living in the world of binaries, one and zeros, and code, and that's your main language, and it's very analytical and it's very engineering, and you never developed the critical thinking of using your right hemisphere, you did not necessarily then appreciate beauty. You appreciated functionality, utilitarian use of use cases. And as a physical therapist, I can tell you that when I moved and started seeing children, like babies, in the 90s. Yeah, I think that was, no, 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 no. It wasn't even in the 90s. In the early 2000s, I started seeing the kid diagnoses change, where literally we were getting kids referred to us because the moms felt bad. They were putting them in daycare all day and would only carry them because they wanted that human connection. So when I say human systems, I'm not just talking about body systems, which is what my point is. When you're in STEM and completely geared in a very linear thinking way, and you see timelines and you see productivity and you see functionality and you see use cases, to even put time into something in that sort of way, you don't understand human beings. And this is why we're seeing, I believe this is why we're seeing such a lack of understanding. I've heard people in tech say, I don't understand, or I've read, I don't understand. Everybody used social media easily. Everybody used, what's this resistance? Like, I've used it for so many tools. I'm using it every day. They're like obsessed into it. They're also the people who thought it was really logical to go work for companies because they gave them a lot of money and then they kept them in like a playground. They literally kept them there 24/7 in like a playground, and they let them play video games all day, and as long as they did their productivity metrics. Do you understand that they kept them in a teenage adolescent mentality, even as adults? Like, do you understand how adolescent that is? That's middle school, junior high, and high school. They created when you went off to college, and what wonderful liberation you thought you had, when really you didn't. you just were allowed to grow up a little bit, but still somebody else was paying your bills a lot of the time, like a lot of these STEM kids. Um, so I even saw that switch going into health and wellness and healthcare. When I went into healthcare in the early 90s, there was still sort of an altruistic, I'm going in for this, like it wasn't all about the paycheck and all of that, because that's very left brain. That's very A equals B. And I just think a lot of the conversation right now, my colleagues who I try to focus on with my work, is still my colleagues. I went into peer mentorship. Naturally, you do that. I didn't want to necessarily teach them new techniques. I wanted them to teach them how to make healthcare better the way I did entrepreneurially, meaning better access, more holistic, more in what applying the science instead of the system's restrictions. So that's where I'm coming from in this 90-day stretch. I've been discussing how it's actually a lot harder than I thought, because researching in to what we're pissing away, because the people who have so much money and power right now just literally never fully developed their right brain is frustrating. It's frustrating because I've been in human development. Like you think you're doing so much, but it's for so little of an outcome. Because in the end, money talks. And if people who are just really linear, single minded, get into an ounce of, like they're all reading, I said yesterday, we're literally suffering right now with this transition, because we have people who literally want to treat flipping the entire system of how we've been relating in our human systems, which includes our power dynamics, which includes our kind of biopsycho social spirituality, which includes literally 2 decades of being fed through social media, algorithmic behavioral marketing, aka propaganda, when you want to call it for what it is. um, there's certain countries such as the United States that really have kind of softened down the potential of human beings to the point where we have a bunch of people who have given up on human capacity, because where they are, they're underdeveloped. They're geniuses in terms of engineering, and I'm not saying anything about intelligence. See, this is where it gets uncomfortable, because they've so accumulated or equivalated compute and the cognitive aspects of the human brain, and computing with computers, and and have made the computers better at compute. They've basically made it really genius in mathematics. They've created their little Einsteins. But Einstein, if you look into his history, which you never get all over the place, he was a humanist. He was an artist in the way that he approached thinking. He went into black colleges because he understood the representation from what they had experienced should not be ignored. He understood he felt bad about contributing to the Manhattan Project. You know what I mean? And we have a bunch of people who are like, that's not efficient. Any sort of feeling or any sort of conscience is not of being efficient. It's going to stop you. Yeah, hell yeah, it's going to stop you. It's why some of my peers, when they started allopathic medicine, they started it with a eugenic agenda, because they saw the business of that. They saw the control, and they saw the money and the economics of it. And there were people who realized, no, I am a healer. I don't think we should be experimenting on black and brown people, because we feel and are ignorant to the fact that our hegemony and our whiteness is actually what's holding us back as a civilization. Nothing to do with intelligence. Nobody was stupid. in terms of their compute, in terms of their logic, in terms of a very mathematical if this and if this or kind of compute. But they were not exposed to diversity enough. They were not understanding. Listen, we're still playing the game or attempting to play the playbooks that were tied to a very low vibing human experience. And I think we need to talk about that because AI is biased. And I saw a post today by a very popular LinkedIn woman, a young woman. I think she's in her 30s. I don't know. She looks in her 30s. She looks great if she's older. She's been kind of one of the first talkers on like AI and kind of AI training. And she made a post today, 2026, about 3 years into this for her, where she's finally realizing she needed to go into the bias. And her post was, a lot of us think AI isn't biased. And that's true. That's true because what I was saying, a lot of people in the AI conversation, pushing it, feeling it's so wonderful, have been in these little circles of lack of exposure. Silicon Valley is in a mentality where they don't see the bias. Why? Because in order to see the bias, you need to be able to see the contrast. In order to see the contrast, you need to be able to use both sides of your brain and the corpus callosum in it and the joiner and kind of be firing both and back and forth. And for doing that, you need a spatial intelligence. For doing that, you need some sort of physical intelligence, meaning you're going to feel the biochemical impact of feeling things. So your stoicism is misplaced if you believe stoicism means I'm controlling and suppressing emotions. Stoicism is supposed to get you to kind of see the emotion, feel it, step back from it, look at it from the outside or a different, diverse, varied perspective point of view. It's not supposed to get you stiff and stern and go through it anyway. We have a very, very illiterate, we have a lot of illiteracy in people who are computationally and compute and reasoning from a very left brain binary, literal binary conversation, and also their environment. Listen, when you're deep in it, you don't see the bias because you see yourself as part of it. It begins reflecting you. And in what we don't understand, and what I hope my clinical peers do understand as they decide how much AI to use and what to use it for. Because here's my point. Listen, if you've been in health and well-being, if you've been in social services, if you've been in public policy, if you've been in everything that kind of comes from understanding the humanities and the arts, in the art of science and technology and engineering and medicine, if you've been sort of understanding the artistry that needs to happen for us to bring this in without being self-destructive, that can come from law, that can come from any of the pillars at this point. You are the medicine right now. You are the bridge between humanity and technology, and like you're the person we wish we had back when they were talking in the Manhattan Project, and the people who had really been a part of it really saw the horror because they underestimated where the human evolutionary psyche was in the military, in the national kind of conversations of that time. They realized what they unleashed. And we need to be in a similar place right now, not because social media was fine. Social media wasn't fine. Social media was very harming. Social media caused a lot of eating disorders, caused a lot of mental disease, listen, it caused a lot of psychosocial incapacity for adulting, social media was not okay. We should not have adopted social media by way of the marketers and the capitalists and the oligarchs. That was a bad thing for human beings. In our human systems, it really effed us up. It really did. And despite us having the research, so when I'm hearing, because I'm in the AI healthcare conversation, I'm also, like I said, from my past, I was deep in digital marketing. I was deep in behavioral marketing and conversations because I came from mind body. I understood the power of the mind over the body to literally cause physiological diseases and dysfunctions, let alone relational diseases and dysfunctions, let alone spiritual religious diseases and dysfunctions and sociopathies from those psychologies. I understood like I went into it because I wanted to understand what people were doing, but I was thinking I don't want to follow that just because I see the functionality of it. Because I'm in healthcare, I would be a hypocrite. I would be a hypocrite at that point. And that's my point. And that's why, even though my work may want to be to advise people how, and small health, I want to empower small health. I want to empower especially the women, because I think we go into healthcare for all the right reasons still. We're being pushed out of positions of social services at the highest numbers because we do it right, because we are the Cassandras in the coal mine. You understand? Look up the Cassandra paradox. Look up the canary in the coal mine to understand. Because we do that, and because women of color do that so well, because of the positions we've been in, we're the first to go. Because we're the human friction. What? I mean, we're the conscience. We're the ones saying this is not going to turn out well. And we're the ones saying, why would you cause disease? Oh, well, because it's going to make us $1 million. And with those $1 million, it's going to make so many other people capable of things and be happy and pleasured. And it's not, and if we have some disease, then we're going to use some of that money to pull it back. We're going to roll that back, and we're going to discover something to cure that disease. So like we get paid twice. Like that's the mentality we're working with. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of people who keep it simple and sane who say, listen, do we need to keep doing the same damn hero's journey? Listen, the hero's journey is a circle. You're on it circle and over and over and over again. Why? Because common sense is not there. It's like you're just like, well, it works. Let's keep doing it. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. You lose a lot of people when you cause wars for senseless reasons, but pride and an inability to feel emotions and negotiate peace treaties. Like it is really a lack of human, it's nothing to do with intelligence, because again, that's compute. If you can reason it because you're in an environment that normalizes something. Listen, right now in the United States, we have normalized poverty. I literally watch people who are making it cool to live in your car and give TikToks on how to live in your car because you couldn't afford a rent, but you have a job every day. You're not trying, but you lost your health care and you listen, after a financial infidelity and divorce and literally having my parents dead already and my ex's family like literally just go that route to just like literally just follow the crowd because of their dysfunction, like I was there. If it wasn't for my younger brother, I would have been homeless. And I did everything right, and I have 3 degrees. It's just when you're in a system at the wrong time and you've been doing something and you're caught off guard, like, and we're literally normalized it. So the reasoning and the intelligence is that has nothing to do with it. When you're telling me that the reason we need to mass adopt AI carelessly is because it will allow us to fix the things we break easily, and a lot of people will make money and money solves everything. I say no. I've lived through it. Not I've sat bringing people out of their bed. I was working with high performance people, athletes, getting $1 million. I was working with in New York City. I was working on that 10th floor of my hospital, which was where she people went, and like, the prime prince of such and such country still had a stroke and was pooping on himself and needed me to help him out of bed. I mean, money doesn't solve that moment. Like, you can get your cyborg and your Neuralink after your stroke all hooked up. But like, if we're only going to have that accessible to the people who can like rationalize the chaos to get there, and then everybody's having a stroke because they're all coked up because they can't, deal with having emotions, and like they can't have big feelings and big money at the same time. Like, it's not going to go in the right spot. This isn't a political conversation to me. This is a healthcare, this community health conversation. But it's biased. The AI is biased, like I said. So if you're just waking up to that, do you see where we're at? We are now 3 years down the road of something that's accelerating with no guardrails in certain places. Thank God, EU. Thank you, the EU. Thank you, the EU, for putting on some restrictions that some US companies are now needing to abide by. But there's going to be resistance, and there's going to be people who have money who are going to still try to buck the system. And it's only making more stress. So if you've been in the health and wellness conversation, you need to be in the AI conversations too. You need to understand the interfaces. You need to understand that there's bias because we literally are. I'll say it this way. This is a large language model. And again, I'm speaking probably to people who have an understanding of human beings, like in some capacity. Motor learning, language learning, babies, they learn their environment. There's a bias there. They learn the language and how to coordinate their mouth and how to pronounce things by the bias they're in. So if you have only people in tech getting the conversations around why we need what we need, and if this is where they're not getting it because they don't have really, they're trying to hire in now. You understand? They're trying to fix their mistake. But if those people with humanities and arts background and skills in durable skills such as empathy, which they used to say, was hurting that, like that's another bias too. Do you think Grok is hiring in people who have empathy skills? Absolutely not. So if you use Grok, there's going to be foundational bias because the founder and their philosophy and their company, the way that their company is forced to think in their culture they've created, thinks empathy is a weakness. Thinks you should abandon emotionally, financially, relationally your child because they've chosen to use their transhumanism in how they're born a different way than you do with your Neuralink. Because that's really it, right? How ironic is that? How ironic is it that one LLM is founded by someone who basically hates their child right now because they decided to be trans in their mind when the reality is their child's telling them this is who I am. And that's just the label you're making for me. But I am living as I feel I am. And yet, that's not transhumanism. What's transhumanism and acceptable is putting little robot computers and maybe even blood cells hooked up to computers. Singapore just kind of uh, really got that going. Neuralink and having things in your head and having you like controlled by Bluetooth, and you could be like more than just human. You could be a cyborg. Like, that's acceptable. Like, if my kids would do that, I would love them and give them $1 million. But the one that's like living a truly human experience and not confining themselves to the box they were born in, they hate. Do you understand? That LLM and that company and those programming and the filters they have there and the conversation, the syntax and the way that is allowed, just think the children in that environment and the adolescents given a little bit of more autonomy on an underdeveloped lack of right brain programming intelligence wisdom ever evolving, because large language models don't bring in any of that. They're language models. That's not all of AI, what AI can be. Fifi Lee's working on something with spatial intelligence and being able to have a world model, something that interprets more like along the sensory of perception. When we get these things together, we may get to a point where we can actually say, oh yeah, humans are capped. But right now, what we have is like an adolescent brain being touted as the most intelligent force that's going to change the universe. That is correct. If you put Barron Trump right now in the job of his father, we will see some revolutionary things happen. But his brain is underdeveloped, and he's been in a certain culture and he's been in a certain system of privileges and positionings and lack of like ethics to some extent and allowances and going around the system so much that I don't think that would be an intelligent thing. There'd be intelligence there, but it would have nothing to do with his IQ. It would be the fact that like there's signs and symptoms that he's on the spectrum somewhere. I don't know if he is, but he presents like it. There's probably a level of physical intelligence he does not have. I don't know how much emotional intelligence he has. I don't know. And all of these things are in the human system. That's why it's not about having humans in the loop. It's about where do you put certain humans and what skills do they have in these sustaining, life sustaining skills, so that you don't get to the point where there's such a bias. There's so many levels of bias you have to be aware of. And that's why I kind of get confused with, handing over health tech, putting AI in it, and us not understanding. We need to know where and how the data is being used. We need to understand HIPAA is such a small coverage and so local. It's just because you put HIPAA compliant on your AI tool doesn't mean the information and the data is not going to be able to be traced back to the person. Because especially in healthcare, again, I'm not saying let's not use it. I'm saying, can we be small? Can we be smart? Can we be strategic? Can we keep it simple and sane here in America? And the answer is a resounding no. We'll lose the race. Listen, we lost the race. China, Singapore, Asia, even Africa, they know how to use it to help their elderly live out of poverty. They learn how to help them the best we've come up with it is a thing that calls 911, and we don't even have the infrastructure to make sure 911 can get to them. And they're making sure that their elderly can like get DoorDash or whatever the version of that is, that if they're hungry, and that there's the connection to alert them if the person can't pay. Hey, good morning, how are you? So it's my birthday today, and I am hoping that you can take a listen. And I know that these are a little bit longer because my intent with these lives on this particular project this summer, which is going to go into the fall, and I hope I can get there because, as I said earlier this week, it's actually been really depressing diving into this kind of human systems hitting the AI tech mentality and what they're missing in their human systems. Like, that conversation's made me kind of like, not hopeless, but we're really going to have to like dig in for how we do this strategically. um, I hope today that you really think about how I said, like, AI is biased. And even if you're using it smart and small and strategic and sane, use it mindfully. Like, why do you need to learn prompting? Because you can't use Google for a search engine. Please don't use Google for a search engine. Please don't. You're wasting. First of all, you're wasting the technology. Just go use the regular search engines. You're wasting environmental resources, and you literally can get that a different way. Yes, use Perplexity to gather all that research for your work in really helping people navigate these things. Thank you, Martique. Thank you for that birthday wish. Think about which companies you're going to use, not because the model's so great. Let me tell you something. If you have ADHD and you can't get things out because so much stuff is swimming in your brain, and you're a polymath and you can connect the dots so much, but you need to bring it down to a sixth grade level, by golly, the worst of the list is going to be so helpful to you. But like I just explained with us with Grok, like, I'm not going to ever use Grok. I'm never they can come out with the most amazing thing. They can say that they have a technology that I could put it in, and it can make me feel like I don't even know what they could offer me for me to, one, support the founder of Grok, number two, knowing what I know and being in healthcare, literally cause myself moral injury and be a hypocrite supporting the infrastructure of that LLM. Like, call me crazy. Call me crazy. I have a conscience. I'm creating human friction. You want to be creating human friction. We literally need human beings using AI to create human friction. That's why I'm doing this thing, because I'm feeding the I know Substack, and I've allowed my Substack to let Grok, let Gemini, let ChatGPT, let Anthropic's Claude. I said you can grab what I put public. I want them to, because I want them to see a brown woman, not my avatar. This is real. 54 years old. This is what a 54-year-old could look like. Because right now, if I search to make an image on Gemini and I say she's a 54-year-old Latina, who is, if I could put my whole resume in there, and it will come up with this woman who looks like she's on the Golden Girls, who's wearing like maybe wearing like a suit and whatever. And this is how I'm dressed today. Like, because I said she owns a business, and like, it's so biased because it's not seeing you, because you're like, hey, I can save time, and I can like do it for your business. But once in a while, just take 5 minutes and show the AI, show the large language model what you mean when you use the words you use from the person you are. Because you know what? We're the hieroglyphics right now, babes. We are the ones shoveling and carving like the Sumerian tablets. Like, I don't know what's going to go on here. We literally are living. I saw a video where the woman was like, I don't want to keep living in some tech nerd's wet dream of like not having to relate to real people and like having sex with anime robots because I literally can't have a relationship. Like, I agree. Like, I don't want I like to talk to my kids. Like, I think we're not understanding the people who are so gung ho with all the wonderful things this can do. When we give it off and we all live on universal income and we all sit around in a hedonistic world, they're people who literally live in a hedonistic world and thinks it's amazing to like ramp up on ketamine all day and like literally like go under surgeries because you don't like your face enough and like just buy crap and like literally launch things to the moon just to put a scar in it. Like, the insanity. And then they're calling everybody else crazy and lazy because they don't want that life. Like, they think women are, again, these are people who think men are weak if they care about their women empathetically because they have nobody, because they have mommy issues, basically. I mean, like, we understand that, right? So like the people who have worked through their crap need to come out here and just be raw. And I know it's asking a lot. Like, this is how you have to be brave, guys. Don't just read a Brene Brown book about walking out of the freaking wilderness and she ain't brave. Like I said yesterday, where's Brene Brown now? You know where she took herself? You know where she took her pretty white, privileged, scared I'm going to lose millions of dollars, but she's back talking to corporate leaders and going on podcasts talking about, gosh, it's crazy. I just like, I sit there and I ask these tech bros, like, I ask these leaders, these CEOs, like, what do you think? I see them get a question like, what should I do for my kid? And the kids like, and they're like, well, make sure your kid's into AI and computers and programming. And then they get asked like, do your kids do that? And they're like, heck no. And she's so surprised at their disconnect. And but she didn't say what she said to them. I'm pretty sure she didn't call it out because then she wouldn't get $1 million for going and talking to their culture. So we need the new Brene Browns. We need the new look of what's walking in the wilderness. You know what I mean? And we need to just put that there because do you honestly believe we actually know some of the wisdom from the Sumerian tablets? Do you honestly believe that was a culture that needed to use tablets to communicate? No, babes. They knew what was going down. They knew what was happening with their human experiment. They needed things that would last so that one day, these stupid human beings who just took all their culture and knowledge and literally started becoming Roman Empire-esque and reverting back and not learning anything. They understood where it was going. And so, yes, they wrote things down. They put it in jars. They stuck it in the ground. They literally created pyramids and they stuck things miles into the ground. We're just finding like they, this is us guys. We're throwing it into the universe. We're just going to throw things into the universe. I know you have IP, protect that stuff as best you can, but we're right now on a mission because we don't know where this is going to end up. And we're just hoping somebody picks up some of this digital real estate and really see, yeah, this is, don't believe, I don't know if they're going to burn the books. They're doing it. They're trying to. They're stealing books right now. Amazon is buying up books and doing it. And they started as a book depository. So, I don't know. Alexandria, there's so much we don't know and had to start all over because they burned all the damn library with all the culture. Every time they had a woman pharaoh, the next guy would come in feeling all little bruised and like destroy all her shit. Go look at Hespeth. Is that her name? Go look at what she did. She blew that place up. I don't even know if we would have Egypt have been such a fertile empire without her. But Lord knows you won't find much of her statues or whatever, because the guy that came in next got really kind of bruised about her success and wanted to eliminate she ever was around. Let's do this. Have a good day.